Hi, this is Bill. On this demo, we will talk about design patterns or software engineering patterns, and we're going to be niching down to the adapter pattern. Before we touch any code or demos, here's the big idea. I'd like to tell you about the adapter pattern. This is under a structural design pattern that helps you solve a very practical problem. What my client expects is a stable data transfer object, and the data source speaks in different language. By the end of this demo, I'll be showing you a diagram that will help you visualize an example flow of a adapter pattern that will provide you a full picture on top of the code that I will be describing in the beginning of the video. The main value here of the adapter pattern is stability at the edges and speed in the middle layer. The main purpose is to translate shapes and errors so the receiver or the client stays decoupled while systems behind the scene can change. So it gives you an ability to have clean, reusable architecture, loosely coupled using microservices, the ability to consume REST APIs by design, and of course, observe that gives you the capability to monitor each steps of the way, which is an IT standard, compliance to security, and of course, monitoring capabilities. If these things matters to you, you can subscribe now and also join as a member for deeper pattern laboratories. And of course, check the description or the join button to buy me a coffee. Now, what you're seeing is the logs. The value here is the full visibility in production. The purpose is to make every adapter callable, traceable, and supportable. You can see here on the demo data that I have created, pre-filtered with tags using the base logger, you can see a correlation of the ID at the start and a clear success with timing with the data objects returning and the not found when the record does not exist. So the full code of the outcomes of this system logs will be explained as we move forward on the demo. So what you're seeing is not just all noise. This is an example of observability in clean architecture. The adapter pattern is an anti-corruption layer, and good logging turned into a story that you can allow to follow when you are under pressure. Now, on this next tab, I have utilized a scripts background, which represents the client view. The value here is a stable contract that never leaks the backend fields. The main purpose is to guarantee that success is always returning a normalized data objects, and failure always returns a structured error with the predictable code. And I've seen scripts returning nothing, putting you in a position where the error is coming from or where the success is coming from. And as you scale the features of a code, it will be difficult for you to grow. And there's no such thing as static application or a static business. As the company grows, your application also grow. And it is totally relevant and related on the data object fields, number summary, when it was created, the unique ID, and so on. So if it record does not exist, you will see a calm, consistent error object, and you can be redirected to a correct page. And behind the scenes, the administrators of the application will be notified based on its criticality, and the next steps will be prioritized accordingly using consistent error objects. And this is what teams exactly need for resilient UI rendering and reliable API consumers. So this small driver proves the payoff as I now move forward with the scripts background and the code that I utilize to call the pattern. The value is call site stability, and the main purpose is to switch sources without changing the client. The approach is you can call the same method twice, anywhere or everywhere in your code. First against demo data, then against a live data source, so you can flip and flag as necessary on your requirement. The client code will stay the same capability coming from different providers with the same data objects, standardizing the boundaries. And this is the adapter port pattern working exactly as intended. And now let us move forward to the back end of the code, which is the base logger. The value here is consistent telemetry for site reliability engineers and developers. The purpose is to attach context and a correlation ID to every line, then measure the elapsed time so you can set the service level objectives, spot latency spikes, and debug quick. So the info is for the milestones, one for soft problems like not found, error for hard failures, debug for deeper diagnostics, all carrying the same prefix. So as you do a search on a specific level of error, this makes the adapter diagnosable in real production incidents. If you would like to learn the basics of scripting and development and structures, I have a separate course named ServiceNow Developer Fundamentals that you will find at the end of the screen. What you're seeing here is second level development as someone coming to intermediate into a senior level developer. Let's move forward with the target contract and the data objects. So as you can see, as I apply the adapter pattern, we are also implementing object-oriented programming, initiating contracts, and also base classes. So here is the contract the entire app depends on. We are creating a discipline as a software architect as we design the structure of the full code. And you can be managing or working with a team of developers. It could be 5, 10, 50, 100. And building a structure of your code is significant in following the discipline. And as you come to code reviews, developers are bound to follow a direction on how the software should look like, implementing the standards and best practices of coding. And on this example, we have created one method as a structure. And this can be a CRUD operation depending on the process or the business process in alignment to the technical process. So the value here is a protected boundary that shields the client from churn. The purpose is to define the data object first, then make everything else serve it. And there it comes, a service-oriented architecture. As you've noticed, software engineering and administration, that everything is a service and named up to a server. And it could be a Windows server, a Linux server, and so on. So I read the fields out loud again because this is the heart of contract testing and consumer-driven contracts. As you can see, this data objects, this will be the structure, and we are stabilizing the data for your API to allow your test to stay calm even while the backend is evolving. So if this deep dive is helping you, hit the like and tell me which pattern you want next. Facade, decorator, or proxy. Members get early access to hands-on labs. The description has resources and the link to buy me coffee if you want to support more long-form tutorials. Now let us move forward with Adoptee 1 with the platform data source. Now you will meet the first adoptee. The value here is separation of concerns. So we are also applying solid principles of programming. The main purpose here is to have single responsibility principle to keep the data access isolated from mapping. The component speaks the platform's native schema and returns the raw shape. As we implement reusability of the code using dependency injection, independent single responsibility functions using the adoptee, and returning a plain object in a native shape. What you're seeing is an example code. This is not production code. And as we build an application or code for production, we will be separating the objects into its own separate scope applications. You will stay focused on the adapter pattern with simplicity and with the understanding of the use case to help you and guide you when to use this type of pattern. So as we speak, the platform's native schema and returns the raw shape, it has no idea what a data object is. Keeping this isolations means we can unit test queries, tune performance, and even replace the data source without touching the client code. And let us move forward with Adoptee 2. Here is the legacy shaped adaptee using awkward keys. The value is deterministic testing and realistic mapping practice. The purpose to show that the adapter accepts incompatible shapes and still produces the same data objects. As an example, I have created a tiny in-memory dataset where we can test quickly and avoid external dependencies. And this is how you build confidence in field mapping before even touching the live systems. As you follow my tutorials in software engineering architectural patterns, as part of my roadmap, I will be creating downloadable projects with in-memory test data that you can utilize as you build your applications. Now, as we move forward to the adapter, translator, and the anti-corruption layer, this is the scene that ties everything together. The value is a focused translator that hides the differences in the schema and helps you normalize your values, unifies your error handling, and the purpose is to hand the client with a clean data objects and a clear error model while capturing timings for observability. Now, the different feature set that we have created is now coming together in a single picture. As we call this class or object, inheriting from a base class and implementing dependency injection, applying different services inside this adoption layer. And as you visualize and learn how to build this application, I have a deeper foundational course for development, which is ServiceNow Developer Fundamentals that you will find at the end of the screen. As we focus on the adapter pattern, this is applicable in any type of language. You can be using C Sharp, Java, JavaScript, to name it. The framework and software engineering best practices apply to any type of code, giving you a discipline on how to build things the right way. And as we scroll down and show you more about the methods or functionalities that we've created, the adapter detects which raw shape arrived, maps fields one by one, filling the safety faults, and returns a data object or a structured error, keeping it small and focused as it translates the shapes and applies like resilience, like retries, where it does not orchestrate the entire business flows. So as we for you to visualize the function as how we map to data objects, I would like to emphasize that this is not production code, but we are making it simplified for you to visualize into a single class or script includes in a ServiceNow perspective for simplicity. But in production code, the mapping and the data objects will sit on a separate class or in a scope application. Now, as we move forward to the script's background or the caller or our client, you will see here we can switch sources without touching the client. The value is a contract that survives change. The purpose is to validate that demo and live sources produce identical output at the boundary where we can compare two data objects from different sources and matching it in corresponding to the structure of your client. This is the signature of correct adapter pattern. implementation. So here is the close of the loop. The value is predictability of shapes and full traceability. The purpose is to show two successes and one clean failure, all linked by a correlated ID so you can follow a request across systems. This is what you want production, stable contracts, graceful errors, and of course, observe. Now, let us switch gears as I move to the full diagram walkthrough to finish the story. So let us end by reading the full diagram together. So you will leave with a complete mental model of the adapter pattern. The value of the diagram is a shape understanding among developers, testers, and also stakeholders. The main purpose is to agree on boundaries and hands-offs so no one overloads the adapter with responsibilities that belong elsewhere. On the top left is the client lane that shows a portal or consumer making a request and expecting only a data object. The controller or the gateway lane is clean and it authenticates and authorizes forwards. The adapter lane is the translator. It queries the adoptee with the native keys, receives raw data, and maps it into the data objects, and returns a clean object or a structured error. So this data source lane is the adoptee as it owns the schema and performance. It never talks directly to the client. The observability lane collects logs and metrics like request start, success not found, a retry, and a duration. You can see both the happy path, where the request has been fetched, mapped, and also returned. You can see the error path, where request missed, log, or a structured error callback. So this is the adapter pattern in motion. Client, target, interface, adoptee, and the adapter. One capability is a different interface that the adapter keeps your architecture clean while your systems evolve. So the examples provided here is of course replaceable. The tech stack will also depend on what is the chosen technologies, languages, observabilities, databases, to name a few. If this narrative has helped the adapter pattern click, subscribe for more software design patterns, join as a member for labs and templates, and check my description on this video for resources and buy me a coffee to support more videos to come and produce more deep dives on clean architecture and resilient integrations. I'll see you on the next one.